This is K.M. Weiland, and you are listening to the 83rd episode of the Wordplay Podcast. The writing life is so much about ups and downs. Sometimes the downs can make us wonder if the pain is really worth the gain, but it's amazing how quickly the downs get flipped topside again. After fighting with a tricky scene this week, everything suddenly fell sweetly into place. Instant turnaround. To a large extent, I think writing is like unraveling a tapestry. We can pull and pull on the wrong strings, and all we'll do is snarl the works. But when we find the right string, the right plot succession, the right words to bring the paragraph to life, suddenly everything pulls free and falls effortlessly into our laps. But finding that right string does involve a lot of trial and error, and a lot of tangles to be unsnarled in later drafts. So here's to another week of ups and downs. Mostly ups, we hope, and finding the right strings to pull. Bring character emotion to life through action. The latest post in the video series on my blog shows how to evoke emotion from your text using the same minimalistic approach utilized by David Guterson in East of the Mountains. You can watch the video on my blog at wordplay-kmweiland, that's weiland.blogspot.com. New videos are posted every Wednesday. Meanwhile, enjoy this week's podcast. Why you should read the type of stories you write. Aside from writing itself, reading is the single most important element in a healthy writing life. As Natalie Goldberg and Stephen King, respectively, point out, if you read good books, when you write, good books will come out of you. And if you don't have the time to read, you don't have the time or the tools to write. Specifically, we should be reading the type of stories we want to write. Why? Because they make you jealous. Yep, you heard that right. If you're not reading stories that make you drool with envy over the author's ability to craft fascinating characters and string together beautiful word pearls, you're not setting the motivational bar high enough for yourself. Read enough authors who make you think, oh, I could never write like this, and you may one day surprise yourself by writing like them. Because they show you how it's done. You'll find no better place to learn than at the feet of the masters. When you read a story you wish you'd written, take note of the techniques that worked and the elements you particularly loved, then put those components to work in your own writing. Because they convince you of the worth of writing. Sometimes it can be easy to doubt the worth of writing, particularly after we've just logged a long writing session in which nothing went right. When you find yourself asking, what's the point? Dig out a good book. After closing the back cover, you'll more than likely have remembered why crafting stories is worth the struggle. Because they remind you how your dream started in the first place. As Susan Sontag points out, reading usually precedes writing, and the impulse to write is almost always fired by reading. Reading, the love of reading, is what makes you dream of becoming a writer. Don't let that dream die through neglect. Because they teach you how to avoid cliches. By familiarizing yourself with the salient and common points of your genre, you can learn which elements have been overdone. It's a mistake to believe that reading widely in your genre will sap your originality by causing you to subconsciously copy other authors. The truth is just the opposite. Read widely so you know what's original and what isn't. Don't allow yourself to feel guilty for reading. A writer who doesn't read is like a race car driver who avoids pit stops. You can't keep racing forever without stopping to refuel. Just as you set aside a daily time to write, make sure you're also setting aside time to read. Studying stories of the type you want to write is legitimately important research, and don't let anyone tell you differently. Thank you for listening to the Wordplay Podcast. To read a transcript of this episode, visit me on the web at wordplay-kmweiland, that's weiland.blogspot.com, and be sure to listen again next week.